We are here at the Advisors Living Office in Andover, recording another video for you guys. If you could like and share this video and any future videos, we would really appreciate it. It helps get our message across to a wider audience and reach more people. Today we're going to be talking about buyer agency and why it's a good idea if you're a buyer looking for a home to hire a buyer's agent. To give you guys a quick history of how this was handled in the past, up until 1993, you had a listing agent that was representing the seller, and you also had a sub-agent that also was representing the seller. So they both had fiduciary responsibility to the seller. So if you were a buyer before 1993 in Massachusetts, your only option, unless you just wanted to represent yourself, was to hire a sub-agent. And again, that sub-agent was really representing the seller, and their only role was to bring the buyer to the negotiating table. So that was not the best scenario for the buyer because, again, both of those agents had the seller's best interests in mind, and nobody was really fighting for the buyer.
And a lot of the buyers thought the sub-agent was their agent and was representing them, and they weren't.
Right, yeah. After 1993, buyer agency started to enter Massachusetts. And around the year 2000, it was becoming more the norm. You still have the option of sub-agency. So if you are a buyer and, for whatever reason you don't want a buyer's agent to represent you, you can still have a sub-agent represent you. But again, their fiduciary duty is to the seller. So I don't really see any scenario where that would be beneficial to the buyer.
Yeah, and they pretty much, I don't want to say died off, but you stopped seeing them around 2005. That it's still legally something you can do, but we really haven't seen it for quite some time.
So what would you say is the biggest benefit of hiring a buyer's agent?
So your buyer's agent, hopefully they work in the area you're looking and they specialize in the area, or they at least have a lot of experience in the area. They will have looked at not hundreds, but probably thousands of houses in that area that you're interested in. Me personally, I step into anywhere from 20 to 150 houses a week sometimes. I mean, we can have a Tuesday afternoon where I'm in 25, 30 houses just in one day.
Yeah.
So
looking for different buyers or one buyer sometimes?
A combination of looking for one buyer, looking for multiple buyers, or just because I'm an agent in the town, I want to see all the properties in that town.
So even if you don't have somebody looking at houses, you're just looking at them to see what might be a good fit for whatever buyer you're working with.
Yeah, so if a town doesn't have like an agent caravan or broker tour, I'll do what's called an agent preview. So if the house is something that my buyers typically look at, I'm still going to pop into those houses.
What would be another benefit?
Negotiation skills. A lot of times you've never purchased a house before, or you've bought one or two houses before. So negotiating that purchase is going to be difficult because it's not just price that you're negotiating. You're negotiating 100 different terms. You're going to be working through negotiating your home inspection, whether or not you're going to have one, not have one, how limited it's going to be, what's it going to include. You're going to be negotiating your closing dates. Do you want to have occupancy after the closing, or does the seller want to have occupancy after the closing? Is it going to be use and occupancy or just occupancy?
Appraisal.
Getting through the appraisal.
Or waiving appraisal.
Or waiving the appraisal and someone who can guide you through the process of waiving the appraisal and what are the effects and what are the dangers of it. Your agent that you're working with as a buyer's agent, they should have all this knowledge and they should be able to assist you through that negotiation.
Another thing is you work with a pretty wide network of home inspectors, lenders, attorneys, electricians, whatever you might need. We usually have a good referral to give you. All of these experts are trusted. They've been used by previous clients. They've had good experiences with them. So over the years, we have built this pretty big network.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the experience of working with people where we'll go to a home inspector and we can tell that home inspector is literally just doing that home inspection to almost just sort of push it through. And then I run into home inspectors who are literally going through that house with a fine-tooth comb. And those are the people that we love to hire.
Like our home inspector, which really did not make the buyer's agent happy when I selected him.
Yeah, when he found out who we hired, he was not happy. He said he was a deal breaker. And I said, don't worry, I was a contractor. I know what we're looking at. I just want someone to find the issues. And he found every single issue in our house. But we still bought the house.
Yeah, we were able to, or Sean was able to look at the report and decide what was important and wasn't.
Yeah. So it is important figuring out who you want to work with, and having an agent who has that network and knows who's going to be fighting on your behalf is important. And then you also need someone who's going to walk you through every step of the process. Like I said, you're not buying a house every week. I'm having closings every week or every month, or multiple closings on a day sometimes. So I've been through the process, or you've been through the process, and we know what's coming. So we're going to make sure that your offer is put in on the right time. Make sure you get to purchase and sale when you need to get to purchase and sale. Make sure your home inspection happens on its deadline. And then follow up with the lenders. Make sure that the appraisal happens timely. Make sure that the mortgage commitment is taken care of. If it's new construction, do you have to pick appliances? Do you have to pick countertops? Do you have to pick cabinets?
When do you have to pick them?
And there are timelines for them, and we'll push you to get it done in that timely manner.
And what you have to pick first, what can wait, and also with the whole process and paperwork, making sure that every single thing is taken care of. If you don't have that experience, you might miss a step here and there. So it's really important to hire somebody who is familiar with that process.
Yeah.
Next thing that comes to mind is home inspection. And, we talked a little bit about our home inspection and what happened there. So that's another thing that can be a sticking point for buyers.
Yeah, especially somebody who's a first-time home buyer, or it's only their second home they're purchasing. A home inspector can make a good house, seem like a disaster, or they can make a disaster seem like a really good house. So having someone there who can sort of decode or explain what's going on to you.
Yeah, because you won't know the difference if you're not experienced in that area.
Yeah, I mean, a home inspector, like on their home inspection report, they're going to tag it red, needs to be addressed right away. Well, red's scary, but it's electric outlets need to be grounded, or GFCI plug needs to be put in. These are very simple projects, and if you don't know that it's a very simple, easy fix, you start seeing all these red marks.
Overwhelmed.
You could have 100 tiny little projects, and your entire report looks like the house is a disaster. It's not. So having someone who can sort of break through it and explain it to you, going, look, structurally it's sound, the roof is good, the mechanicals are brand new, you've got a new heating system, the house was just painted on the outside, and sure, it needs new refrigerator, dishwasher, and there's some floorboards that need to be replaced, but it's all smaller projects that you can do over time. And then you ultimately make the decision, do I still want to buy the house?
Yeah, and honestly, if I were buying our house by myself and didn't have you by my side, I probably wouldn't have bought it, because I would have probably looked at all the red in the report and would have moved on.
Our entire report was red.
But we were also buying a fixer-upper, so it was to be expected. What about off-market homes and just off-market inventory? Is that something that a buyer would have access to?
So everybody's heard the term pocket listing, and these are properties that aren't listed in the MLS. There isn't even a street sign saying the house is for sale. It's not up on Facebook. Like, you just don't know it's for sale.
So what are pocket listings, just for people who don't know?
Typically what they are is it's a house that might be coming to the market 6 months or a year from now, or it's a property that somebody wants to sell, but they don't want anybody to know they're selling it. So let's say it's a 4-family house and you don't want the tenants to know you're listing and selling the house.
Or they don't want to go public with it.
Or they don't want to go public with it. A lot of times it might be a mixed-use property. So it could be residential on the second floor, but commercial property on the first floor, and nobody wants to know that it's being sold. So you can run into it there. But most of the pocket listings that I run with, just strictly on a residential level, it's the house is coming to the market and it's not for sale yet, but it's under contract, but I might be able to get you in there quicker to see it. And then maybe we can negotiate something and you end up not competing against 20 offers or 10 offers. And you can get that little bit of an edge. So that might be something that
can benefit you as a buyer.
Yeah.
Another huge advantage is if you're an out-of-town buyer. We have worked with a few out-of-town buyers, one just recently, and it can be pretty daunting if you're buying a house from a different state. So maybe you can talk a little bit about out-of-town buyers, what your experiences with them have been, and what you had to do to service that client.
All right, so not every agent's going to be able to work with out-of-town buyers and work with them efficiently. When you're working with somebody who doesn't live in the state, or could be 3 time zones away, or another in another country, you have to make sure that you can preview the property beforehand, make sure that it's something worth going out there and bringing them to look at on video. Usually when I'm doing an out-of-town showing with a buyer, I'm going to Zoom or FaceTime them, I'm going to bring them through the property, and it sounds silly, but having the skill set to pan the camera slowly and show the entire house properly.
Instead of running through it.
Instead of running through just showing your face and the corners up in the attic. It's finding a way to show the house so that they can view it, move slowly through the house so they can see the issues, and
know what the potential issues might be.
And because they're probably going to want to book a flight to come out and take a look at the house, but they would need to be confident enough to put an offer in on the house, get it accepted to come out to do the home inspection. So you're really, with an out-of-town buyer, you're going through that house with a fine-tooth comb, and you're almost viewing the house as the buyer. In a lot of cases, when I just have the client with me, I'm opening the door, bringing them through. They're looking at the house and saying, is this a good space? Is this a good color? Are these nice cabinets? And I'm looking at the house going, is this sink leaking? Is this floor settling? Is this foundation cracked? When I'm dealing with an out-of-town buyer, I have to also now look at the house as a space and the flow and how usable is the house, and trying to explain the different issues that
and
I'm
try
coming
to
up with.
envision if they would be happy in the house,
Yeah.
right? Because that's something that you can't really do when you're looking at it remotely, because you're not really getting a full view of, you know, what does the surrounding area look like. I mean, you do, but it's kind of limited on camera.
Yeah, and like when I'm working with an out-of-town buyer, I start outside the house and I literally pan the neighborhood and the street, show them the condition of the asphalt, show them how close the telephone lines are, what's the condition of their yard, the neighbors' yards. I'll show them the houses 2 streets over, 4 streets over, because I'm driving in, they're not driving in, so they need to know what's around. So it's not just the house, it's the surrounding house. And it's a daunting task sometimes.
It's a little bit extra work, so like not every agent would probably be willing to do that. Also, they probably end up looking at more houses, I would think, than your regular buyer.
Yeah, because your buyer starts looking at houses, and they get tired of looking at houses, and they eventually start going, all right, I'm comfortable, I know what I'm doing, we've looked at our 10th house, this one fits, and we're going to go through it. Out-of-town buyers sitting at home, a lot of times they're almost watching TV and eating lunch while you're doing all the work, so it's a little easier for them to say, let's look at another house.
Right, that's true.
So you will, with an out-of-town buyer, you will potentially look at 2 or 3 times as many houses on average.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's fun.
Oh, it is. I
Because-
love going into houses, so I don't mind.
Yeah, and not just that, but you really want to help the person be able to move into a house that they're going to be happy with in a state that they don't live in. So it's really satisfying when you actually find that house for an out-of-state buyer.
Yeah. And one of the things I've noticed, with my clients as a buyer's agent, I become friends with them and I befriend them and we become a close network. So as that buyer's agent, whether it's an out-of-town client or an in-town client, you build a relationship with them. And that's the real fun part about it.
Yeah.
And you start to care about them. You really want them to get the best deal in the best possible house.
Yeah. What would you say is another big benefit of hiring a buyer's agent?
So your buyer's agent's really going to know they should know the value of any given house in any given neighborhood in any given condition. So if I'm looking at a 3-bedroom, 2,000 square foot colonial in Andover, I should roughly know how much that house is going to be worth. And then if I'm looking at a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom colonial in Saugus, I should roughly know what the value of that house is. And then depending on the condition. So I should be able to, as your buyer's agent, be able to very quickly let you know if the house is overpriced, underpriced. If you're getting into a multiple offer situation, are you overpaying for the house? And if you are overpaying for it, how much are you overpaying for it? And how long is it going to take for you to recoup those losses? Because when you pay over market value for a house, sure, if you're going to be in it for 30 years, it doesn't matter. But if this is a house you might only be in for 5 or 6 years, and there's a chance the market could correct 3 or 4%, and you overpay by 10%, if you're moving in 4 years, you're losing money on that house. And you need to know that. Doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you really want the house, want to be in the neighborhood, and that's a price you're willing to pay, great, do it. But you need to know what you're getting into. And that's where a buyer's agent who knows the value of the house and the value of the neighborhood is going to be able to help you.
Hiring somebody who knows the value of the home is probably especially important in today's market where
Yes.
so many homes are overpriced. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and kind of anticipating what the market's going to do. We don't know, but sort of giving you an idea of what the indicators are and where the market's heading at any given time.
And also, like, knowing if it makes sense to way overbid just for the sake of getting the home, because that's sometimes just not worth it. And we're still seeing so many multiple bidding situations where people just kind of get caught up in that bidding war. They want to win. Everybody wants to win.
Yeah.
And having somebody who can advocate for your best interest and kind of say, well, right now you're paying $100,000 over market value. Is it really worth that to you?
Yeah. That also brings in what I consider my final and most important job is an untrained therapist. So I've had clients where we've lost on 5 or 6 houses or 10 houses, and we've been so close and we haven't gotten the house. And it's working through the disappointment of missing out on a house, but understanding that you didn't miss out on a house, you just didn't overpay for a house. Or that we were stretching on this house and it may not have been the right house. And
or
then,
you sacrificed so many things, inspections or whatever else, that maybe it was for the best that you didn't get the house.
and the fact remains, there's always another house coming. Even once you find a house and you get the accepted offer and you're closing in on it, I always tell my clients, stop looking online for at least the next month, because 2 days after you go under agreement, a house you love even more is going to come up. But it's a house you love even more online. Once you go look at it, you're probably disappointed in it. So whether you're winning the house or losing the house, I am your therapist for 45 days.
Anything else? I know that you said that was your final point, but do you have anything else to add?
Other than you should hire me before you hire any other real estate agent, whether it's
Hire us.
Yeah.
Again, we come as a package.
That's right. I do work with you, don't I?
Yeah, you do work with me. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah. Hire us. Me to go look at the houses and Alex to make sure we close.
Sounds good. I think that's all we had for you. We'll see you in the next video in the new year.